Hello everyone, welcome to Election Ketwill. Donald Trump is surging in the latest 2024 election polls and has taken a huge lead in the Electoral College with just 1 month to go until the election in November. Today, we'll be taking a look at the 2024 electoral map based on the newest poll from every single state. We're going to fill in the map based on poll closing order since voting doesn't end in every state at the same time. It will end first in states on the East Coast and then the map will slowly fill out west. In this video, you'll be able to see how the map will be colored in red and blue on the night of November 5th. We're going to start off at 7 p.m. Eastern Time when polls are going to close in 6 states. These 6 states make up a combined 60 electoral votes. Most of them are going to be pretty solid for one candidate or the other. Donald Trump is easily going to win Indiana, Kentucky, and South Carolina by solid margins, while Vermont, being the most liberal state in the country, will easily go to the vice president. Virginia, though, is going to be much more competitive. Many polls have it as a toss-up. In fact, a recent Research America poll shows the vice president ahead by just 1%. However, the latest Emerson College poll shows her up by 7 points, though this is probably overestimating her support, as Emerson College tends to lean to the left. Based on the newest poll, Virginia is likely to be blue, but just barely. Down in Georgia, we have our first swing state, a state that Joe Biden won in the last election. Georgia is going to be very close once again, but this time Donald Trump has the lead. He's ahead in the most recent Atlas Intel poll. Atlas Intel was the most accurate pollster in the 2020 election, and looking at the spread of the last 8 polls conducted in the Peach State, Kamala Harris leads in just 2 of them. There's no doubt that going into October, the former president has a huge advantage in Georgia, which will be marked as tilt red on our map. Next up, at 7:30 p.m., voting will end in 3 additional states. Trump is easily going to win West Virginia, and in Ohio, he's on track to carry the Buckeye State for a 3rd time. He leads by 6 points in the most recent poll. However, this is a left-leaning poll conducted by the New York Times and Siena College. In the end, Trump will probably win Ohio by a double-digit margin when all the votes are counted, so Ohio is going to be marked as lean red, but it's likely to end up as a solid state for Trump. Down in North Carolina, the second swing state on the map, Trump has retaken the lead. He is ahead by 2% in the most recent poll. Polling in the state has been very competitive over the last few weeks if you just look at the raw numbers. But in 2020, all the polls predicted that Joe Biden would win North Carolina. In fact, he led throughout the entire 2020 calendar year in the polling average. There wasn't a single point when Trump took the lead in North Carolina in 2020, but in the end, Biden lost the state, and Trump came out on top by 1.3%. With Trump leading today, it's a good sign that he's going to win the Tar Heel state for a 3rd time, having won it in both 2016 and 2020. For 2024, North Carolina is going to be marked as lean red. Now, let's move on to the 8 p.m. poll closing when voting will end in 15 states across the eastern half of the United States, as well as the District of Columbia. At this point, we'll start to get a sense of how the rest of the night is going to go and whether Trump or Harris are outperforming expectations. Many races will be quickly called in favor of either Trump or Harris. Trump is expected to easily win Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama, while Harris will take Illinois, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Maryland, and the District of Columbia, with New Jersey and Delaware likely to go blue as well. And Maine. The polling here is really skewed in favor of the Democrats. We've seen a lot of unreliable polls over the last few weeks. The University of New Hampshire is probably the worst pollster out there, as they consistently overestimate Democratic support and are often outliers. According to their recent New Hampshire poll, Harris leads by 11%, which simply isn't going to happen. Meanwhile, in Maine, they reported Harris leading by 17%, which is even more unlikely, considering Joe Biden only won Maine by 9 points in the last election. However, according to the most recent Pan-Atlantic Research poll, the vice president is ahead by 9 points in Maine. In the state's 1st district, she's expected to win by a solid margin, while in the 2nd district, Trump leads by 7 points in that same poll. So, New Hampshire will be likely blue, along with Maine as a whole. The 1st district of Maine will be solidly blue, and the 2nd district will likely go to Trump. Down in Florida, we have a state that doesn't attract the attention it once did. Even in 2020, it was considered one of the most important states in the entire country. But in the end, Trump won it by 3.4%. Republicans performed extremely well in the midterms, with Marco Rubio winning the Senate seat by 16 points and Governor Ron DeSantis by nearly 20. Today, Donald Trump has taken a commanding lead in the Sunshine State. He leads by 4% in the most recent poll, which was conducted by a Democratic sponsor, so he's probably leading by even more. I fully expect the former president to carry Florida by 7 to 10 points. It's going to be marked as likely red, but according to the data we have right now, the most recent poll marks it as lean red. A victory nonetheless, giving him 30 crucial electoral votes. Finally, we come to Pennsylvania. The Keystone State's 19 electoral votes are going to be the most important on this map. If Trump wins North Carolina and Georgia, and also wins Pennsylvania, he will reach 270 electoral votes, assuming he carries all of the other solid red states we haven't filled in yet. The good news for Trump is that, according to the most recent Patriot polling survey, he leads by 1%. In fact, he leads in all 5 of the most recent polls from Pennsylvania. There's no doubt he's taken a commanding lead, as he's also ahead on Real Clear Politics now. So Pennsylvania will be marked as tilt red, and this will be more than enough for Trump to reach 270 electoral votes, provided he wins all of the other states he's currently expected to carry. 30 minutes later, at 8:30 p.m., polls will close in Arkansas, which Trump will easily win. Fast forward another half hour, and we'll see voting end in 14 states across the country, from Arizona all the way to New York, representing a total of 157 electoral votes. Let's start off by getting the solid states out of the way. Trump is easily going to win North and South Dakota, Wyoming, all of Nebraska, except its 2nd district, Kansas, and Louisiana. At this time, Kamala Harris doesn't have any solid states. If you watched the recent debate, you'd know that the bias from the moderators was yet another example of how the media environment contributes to division, making it hard for people to think for themselves. That's why I use Ground News, a website and app that aggregates news from 50,000 sources worldwide, so you can stay informed and see through media manipulation. Check it out for yourself at ground.news/election-time. You can see here that there are over 600 articles on a recent story asking who won the Harris-Trump presidential debate. If we look at the coverage details and bias distribution, we can see which news sources covered this story, and the breakdown of the political leanings of the outlets reporting on it. 41% lean left, while 22% lean right. If you want to compare headlines, one outlet on the left reports that Harris won the debate and it wasn't even close, while an outlet that leans right criticizes the biased moderators from ABC. With an intense election ahead of us, I highly recommend Ground News. Just go to ground.news/election-time, click the link in the description, or scan the QR code. My link will get you 40% off the Vantage plan, the same one I use for unlimited access to all their features. Now, moving on to the competitive states. Let's start in Colorado, where Kamala Harris leads by a double-digit margin, 10 points in the most recent poll, which was conducted by Morning Consult and Bloomberg. They are known for being one of the most biased pollsters out there, and their polls are often outliers. Colorado is still likely to go to Harris, but probably by around a 7-point margin. But based on the data we have right now, the state is likely to be blue, though I expect it to be much closer than what the polls are currently indicating. In New Mexico, the vice president leads by 8% in the most recent Survey USA poll, which is a bit more reliable. She's probably going to win the state by around 6 to 7 points. 8 points isn't far off from the earlier polls showing her up by just 5. So New Mexico, based on the most recent poll, is barely going to qualify as a likely state for the vice president. Next, in Texas, Democrats simply do not stand a chance. In 2020, many polls suggested Joe Biden would lose the Lone Star State by just 1%, but that was never going to happen. In the end, he lost by 6%. Today, Donald Trump is on track to win the state for a 3rd time in a row. He leads by 5 points in the most recent poll, which was sponsored by Democrats. I expect Trump to win Texas by a double-digit margin when all the votes are counted. So, while Texas is marked as lean red based on current data, I fully expect the former president to perform much better in November. Nebraska's 2nd district is likely to go blue, with Kamala Harris leading by 9 points in the most recent poll. And then we have one more likely blue state at this hour, New York. Surprisingly, New York is more competitive than usual. Harris leads by 14 points in the most recent poll. In fact, only one of the last 5 polls has her ahead by a solid 15-point margin. Historically, every Democratic candidate since Bill Clinton in 1992 has won New York by 15 percentage points or more. Harris is currently on track to have the worst performance in New York since Michael Dukakis in 1988. The Empire State will be marked as likely blue on our map. Now, we're left with the 4 most competitive states, where voting will end at 9 p.m. Let's start in Arizona, which is worth 11 electoral votes. Trump is currently on track to win. There's no doubt about it, he's taken a commanding lead in the state. Out of all the swing states, none lean more to the right than Arizona. Trump leads by 1% in the most recent poll, and apart from 2 Morning Consult polls, which lean heavily to the left, every other poll shows Trump ahead, with one even showing a tie. So, currently, Arizona is tilt red based on the most recent data, but Trump is performing much better than he did in 2020 when he lost the state to Joe Biden. Moving up to the Midwest, we have Minnesota, which is Tim Walz's home state. Kamala Harris chose Minnesota's governor as her running mate, but according to the most recent poll, she leads by only 6%. None of the polls released in September showed her leading by more than 7 points, meaning she's underperforming compared to Joe Biden's 7.1% margin in 2020. And remember, Biden didn't have Minnesota's governor on the ticket. Harris leading by less than 7 points is a bad sign, indicating she'll perform worse than Biden did 4 years ago. Minnesota is going to be lean blue on our map, with the most recent poll showing her ahead by just 6 points, not where she wants to be. Next, in Wisconsin, this could be the closest state in the country. It's likely to be decided by the smallest margin among the competitive states. Trump won the state in 2016 by 0.76%, and Biden won it in 2020 by just 0.63%. Biden was supposed to win Wisconsin by 7 points, according to the polls, but he won by a much smaller margin. Now, Trump leads in the most recent Atlas Intel poll, the most accurate pollster of the 2020 election cycle. Trump leading in any Wisconsin poll is significant, as 4 years ago, poll after poll showed Biden winning by 6 to 8 points, only for him to win by much less. This is yet another sign that Trump is doing better than in 2020, with Wisconsin currently marked as a tilt red state based on the most recent poll. Make sure you stay tuned to the channel for the latest updates and projections as we continue to track the 2024 election. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay informed as we dive deeper into the race. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.